All right, this is the part of the show where I take darts, fire them away. I admit last year my preseason rankings for the Big 12, I had Texas winning the whole thing, but a lot of people did. However, I also had West Virginia dead last. I'm an idiot when it comes to that.
So Arizona State is thrilled with you right now.
Yeah, no, Arizona State ought to be very happy.
If you're a Sun Devil fan, you should be looking at this going, well, he picked West Virginia last year. It's salad days in the land of the sun.
Here we go. Boo, you suck. Yeah. You hate our team. Look where I have Oklahoma State, which we mentioned right at 4.
I'm telling you, James has already put this out on Twitter.
Oh, dear
he's
God.
already put it out.
He's a troublemaker.
Yes.
A menace.
I gave him a segment on the triple option today, and he was a quick fan favorite. So, but.
Yeah, he's kind of fearless for just a kid.
Yeah, he is.
He's got a little.
And so, but yes, you and I have the same top 2, Kansas State and Utah.
All right, you guys asked me questions. There it is. By the way, Kim Coulter, I had Tech higher than Paul did.
By 1 spot.
Kyle Visser, put on your body armor. Hey, listen, I've got 6 bullet holes in my stomach from surgery. I can survive.
Yeah. Okay. Arizona at 3, and you've got Kansas at 5. Is it you feel more confident that Arizona will make it all the way through complete than maybe Kansas will?
No, look, I love Lance Leipold. I really, what he's done in really a short amount of time, I think they're loaded. I do wonder about Daniels and health, and even last year they always had somebody to back him up. Who was the backup quarterback? I'm going blank.
Jason Bean.
Jason Bean, who was fantastic. Everyone would love to have him. Some would like to have him as a starter. I'm not saying they don't have depth because that's what Leipold's going to do. I like what Arizona was able to, I guess, hold together, survive, because that could have absolutely cratered. Now, Brennan's got a lot of work to do, but I have them at number 3, and KU at 5. Listen, if someone wants to complain about me having KU at 5 in a football preseason rankings, how quickly they forget where they used to be. That was the first thing you would do, is put them at number, 10, 12, whatever it might have been.
Yeah, I've already seen some KU fans, and maybe it's like 2, so I use plural very loosely there, but like they've been good in football, like good to pretty good for like a year and a half, and they're like, where's our Big Ten invite? Like, I swear to God, though, like you can find that very easily. Granted, it's Twitter, so you can find like anything, but yeah, I think it's fair to, like, there's a lot of weight propping up if Jalen Daniels is healthy. Like, he played a little bit in the spring game, but the spring game was closed off, so you just had to go by word of mouth from people who were there. I know they've done everything to protect him and get him healthy, but, like, he hasn't played in 2 years either, basically. So I do think that, like, yeah, if Jalen Daniels comes back and he's 2022 Jalen Daniels and fully healthy, they'll be really good. But is he going to come back 2022 Jalen Daniels healthy and, like, ready to roll like that? I do think that's fair to question that. And you know what? If he gets hurt, they do not have a backup as good as Jason Bean. They do not. He was the best backup quarterback maybe in the entire country last year. And that's just a compliment to him, not a knock on anybody on their roster.
All right.
But, yeah, I'm just saying that to, like, I know KU for most people is going to be top 4, and I think they might even be on mine. We'll see tomorrow. But I do think it's fair to at least go, well, the if is propping up a lot of the Jalen Daniels thing, and they did lose their OC, who I know KU fans in some circles have said he wasn't that good anyways. But I don't believe that. And I don't believe you just, like, roll in. Now, granted, Leipold's running a lot of that offense, so, that's fine. But I do think there is something to having a play caller who's above average that knows the timing of when to call certain things, and they can get better in some regards, like in the pass game, but yeah.
All right, well, I have them 5. I again, remember, there's 16
teams.
It's
so many teams.
And this year, for me, it all flowed a little bit easier. A lot of it is who has quarterbacks who are back. Mm-hmm. Like, I already see someone laughing their ass off because I have Colorado at 11, but of the teams behind them, They have Shedeur Sanders back. Have they replaced?
Well, is that laughing because they're too low or too high?
They think I have them too high.
Too high. I mean,
But
compared to those.
how can I put Colorado ahead of Baylor when we don't even know who the starting quarterback is? Although I think maybe Sawyer Robertson has a little bit edge there, in my opinion. Shedeur Sanders is still a tremendous talent. They can't be as bad on the offensive line, and they can't be as bad defensively, although maybe they will be.
They can't have as bad of a run game. Yeah, like
And they're
basically.
not in the Pac-12.
And they had a very tough schedule last year because that league was very good, which we have to take into account that wasn't just some ho-hum Pac-12. That was like a really good Pac-12. Like they saved their best for last, literally, other than winning the national title, obviously. So I asked, though, because I can guarantee you there's a Colorado fan, or more precisely a Deion Sanders fan, who's like, 11, that's way too low. But so that's why I asked you that question.
Okay,
but I mean, looking at the teams behind them, I don't know how you're really overrating them, because I don't know who behind them you'd really go like, they're going to be so clearly so much better than Colorado. I don't have confidence saying that about any of those five, but that's a firebrand. That's just a logo you see now, and people have their feelings on Colorado one way or the other. So yeah.
I think there'll probably be some UCF fans that feel like they're a little bit low. There's a pocket. There's a pocket to me of about 5 teams at the top: K-State, Utah, Arizona, Oklahoma State, KU. And then there's another pocket with West Virginia, Iowa State, Tech, and UCF. And maybe TCU remains to be seen. And then I think there was a pocket of the 5 or 6 that I have from 11 to 16. Any other questions? Fire away.
You have UCF at 9. You're 6 to 10. Why that order?
West Virginia, I was not going to underrate them this year.
Okay, good.
That's not why I put them at 6, because that's from 14 to 6.
Yeah.
West Virginia, I love Garrett Green. I love the mentality. I love kind of their personality. Can they now make sure they remain as sharp-edge focused and the chip on their shoulder as they had a year ago? They do lose some people, obviously, in the offensive line. Iowa State, I think Iowa State's just, I like what they did. Now, they have had a problem and a tendency of being able to follow it up from one year to the next. And last year, I think they probably surprised a few people. I think it's a bubble of 6, 7, 8, and 9, and I have UCF at 9. They do lose their quarterback, although they do have KJ Jefferson there to try to help make sure that doesn't go off the wagon.
Yeah, which quarterback? All their quarterbacks. Yeah, they had to go through a few of them, or a couple of them last year, with John Rice Plumlee's constant dealing with injuries. I think that's a thing that, as good as he could be at times, he wasn't always that good all the time. And I think just not having to worry about that constantly is probably going to do a lot of good for the Knights, to just go like,
I agree.
This big sturdy dude right here is going to be here. And if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But like, it's not going to be every week we're like, is he playing? Is he not playing? Is he playing? Is he not playing? And I feel like that's kind of how it was with John Rice Plumlee.
All right, here's another thing.
Did you have something on UCF, Paul?
I think they're. I have them at 6, but like, to me, 6 to 9 is fair. Is fairly interchangeable. Like all it's on. Like again, the middle. That middle 8 is.
You're talking about teams that are all going to have the same records, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
From 8-4 to 6-6.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So I have them high. I love their running game. I think they're going to be better on defense. They've got better linebackers in. They already had a good defensive line. It was one of the strange things. I remember at that Baylor game last year going, man, they're, asking one of the beat writers, like, hey, their defensive line's getting torched. He goes, no, watch them closer. And you see the defensive line knocking Baylor's offensive line back, and the linebackers just being like, ah!
Yeah.
What are you doing running right at me? Like, don't try so hard, bro. But yeah, I think they'll be better there. And again, those are the hard, like, 6 to 10 for me was the hardest, because I'm trying to look at their schedules and go, okay, well, these play this one doesn't. If it was the old way, this would be way easier.
I got to tell you, I'll be honest about this. If you all think that with my attention span that I dug into everybody's schedule of who's playing.
Oh, I know you did.
Because here's the problem. How do we know if the schedule's harder than other schedules? Because we don't even know maybe who the best 5 or 10 teams? How do you it's not like it jumps out when you have certain teams on there.
I do think it does to some extent. Like I think if you've got K-State, Utah, Kansas, West Virginia, Iowa State, like all on your schedule, I think you're playing a tougher schedule than if you have Baylor, Cincy, Arizona State, Houston, BYU taking up half of it. You know what I mean?
Which is what I miss about the 10-team conference.
I do too.
God,
and I think I miss a lot of things about it in hindsight, and I don't love the idea, even though I know that's like the thing that we're all like pointing towards is 20-team leagues, 24-team leagues, whatever. I think that kind of sucks to have that many teams in the league because – talk about not playing each other. The more teams, the more matchups you miss out on every year. So, that's definitely something that the Big 12 lost. That was pretty great.
Because nobody could get that algorithm where it just seemed like, again, like you look at even the SEC, there's some teams like poor Florida, and then Texas, considering it's the first year, hey, listen, they got to play some dudes, and they have Michigan in the non-conference, but they seem to have gotten pretty much a favorable schedule.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma, they picked between the two.
Let's not get too much.
They picked. It's like they picked between the two newbies and the coin flip went to Texas. Sorry, Oklahoma, it's going to be tough.
There's a question, and I think it was Dan again. Of the teams, let's say among 1 through 8, which of those teams is most likely to underperform, and who among 9 through 16 is most likely to maybe do that Big 12 jump and maybe be a part of the mix?
I would say the most likely to underperform, even though I think they'll be really good, is Iowa State. Because they're not great at stringing 2 years together, and now they have expectations. When they come out of nowhere, that's when they're kind of more lethal. I would say the team most likely to overperform from 9 to 16 is a neck-and-neck tie between UCF and TCU.
Okay. All right.
I see where you're coming from on Iowa State. I can make a really good case for like half of those teams. The ones I would be shocked, the only teams that I would be shocked that if they were not anywhere close to where they're ranked right now would be K-State. And I don't mean that they're just number one in my book, but I think they'll be like, if they're not top 3, then Avery Johnson got hurt and something happened because there's really no other excuse for them to not be in that mix. Same thing with Utah. Cam Rising had to get hurt again or something for them to not be in like the top 3-ish area there. But, I think you can make a case about West Virginia's strength of schedule or Oklahoma State's 1-score wins last year not carrying over, or just Kansas having some changes and maybe not having 2022 Jalen Daniels. I
want to go back to Iowa State.
Okay.
Paul, you mentioned they had 5 consecutive winning seasons with Matt Campbell from year 2 through year 6.
Winning season's one thing, but
they did well. But being 8, 7, 9, 7 is pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
Best they've ever had. Well, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus. And then they had 4 and 8 when maybe the expectations were high again, and then that's when things fell apart.
Yeah. So maybe I'm wrong on Iowa State. Look, and I'll tell you the one I predicted to underperform the most or most likely to is Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Because having a 7th-year quarterback is either a really good thing or just an okay thing. And I don't feel comfortable.
Alan, you're talking about Bowman.
Look,
how many teams in the Big 12 would want him as their starting quarterback?
Not number 1, not number 2, not number 3, not number 5, not number 6. Number 7. I mean, I don't know how deeply people feel about Rocco Becht. You know what I mean? So I don't know if
still think
if
they probably,
Texas Tech was being honest, would they rather have them?
No,
I don't think there's like a great difference. I think you're just splitting hairs at that point. If you're like Barron, Morton, or Allen, it's like either way, you're kind of in the same place.
KJ Jefferson.
No.
Okay.
Josh Hoover.
TCU probably, but how different are we talking?
Yeah,
We're talking about you win one more game.
And he's got some treads on the tires now because of last year.
Shedeur, no.
No.
Baylor maybe, but I think they're happy with
splitting hairs again. Yeah. I think we're
Houston. I don't think so.
Donovan Smith.
I think he's intriguing in Willie Fritz's offense. It's not even about is it Alan Bowman better than Donovan Smith? It's just is he better? Is he so much better that it matters?
I'm talking about an upgrade.
Is he an immediate upgrade? Yeah. No, I don't think that he is suddenly making them win 2 or 3 more games. No.
Kim Coulter God, Kim, you wear your feelings on your sleeves like I do. When I mentioned Tech and Baron Morton and Alan Bowman, hell no. Shake my damn head.
Hell no, he wouldn't want. Yeah, I mean, like I think Alan Bowman had a really good bounce back year, but I also think we forget that we just didn't know that he existed on Michigan's roster for a little while, and we didn't talk about him for like 2 years. And we go back to like when he was at Tech and he was good but injured all the time.
Yeah,
he put up monstrous numbers, but it was sporadic because of the injuries. All right, wet blanket. I just knew he was going to be a part of it. How many teams wish they could have played in the Big 12 championship game like Bowman and Oklahoma State did?
A lot of them do, but, Blake Shapen played in one, and he was nothing similar to that the very next year, and neither was that team, So, like, that doesn't get – I do think there is something to be said for returning things from a winning team, especially as much as they are, which is, like, almost everything. But I don't think that just carries over the same way because, for example, the one-score wins, like those can't easily flip. They might not, and if they don't, then Oklahoma State will be sitting there at the end of the year in the same spot going, told you so. You shouldn't have doubted Mike Gundy. Like, how many times you need a reminder of that, but that's not guaranteed to happen. So I think, there's a lot of presumption that they just can't follow that up. And if they can, then it'll be another year where maybe this is the time when people go, like, in their pecking order of Big 12 teams, Oklahoma State deserves to be mentioned in that top tier, but I think everybody's still kind of feeling like last year, or not everybody, but there's a good portion of people that feel like that's just not going to translate exactly just because everybody's back.
All right, so there I have it. I wonder how many ballots that are from the media, and I don't know if there's 50 or if there's 75 or 100, will have K-State, Utah in one order or the other,
I think
1 and 2.
99% of them will.
No, really?
Yeah, I do.
Paul?
Okay, sorry, 98% will have them.
How many of the media poll ballots that have already been entered, yesterday was the deadline, if there's 50 or there's 80 or whatever, how many of them will have at least in some order 1 or 2 K-State and Utah?
90%.
Really?
Yeah.
All right,
I'm going over the top because I'm just trying to drive home the point that, I think it'll be overwhelmingly those two.
You got to put in a little bit of a plus or minus 3% like they do in polls because of sometimes, depending on who the media is and who
Ari
they cover.
Tempkin's the only one who was dumb enough to pick Oklahoma State last year, it felt like, and then he nailed it.
Yep.
And he nailed it. And I say that tongue in cheek, but like he even came on the show going, when we were like, I think we didn't even know who it was. Like, somebody picked Oklahoma State, and he's like, that was me. Like,
good on him, man.
Somebody got hit in the head with a brick and wrote down Oklahoma State, and then they were there. So, look, putting them at 4 is very fair, given their if.
Here's the thing. It's not even so much and like I understand we're talking to fan bases, so everybody's very passionate. But, Paul, I feel like the thing is it's not even a knock on Oklahoma State. It's a compliment to Kansas State and to Utah and to Arizona that you just think they're going to be better because, Oklahoma State's really good, but those teams just maybe do it for you a little bit more than the Cowboys do.
Cousins Corner jumped in. Great to have
Legend.
you. Legendary West Virginia media man. This league is nearly impossible to predict.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely correct.
I mean, you have 100 people, you're going to have 100 different 1 through 16s. I think you'd have like 90 with the same 1-2 or just reversed 2-1. But I think as far as like past 2, I mean, I didn't expect to see Arizona at 3 here. I mean, but I respect it because I can understand where you're coming from. But I think
I'm a little wobbly on them, but I
am too. I think they're going to be good, and I think they're definitely going to win their fair share of games. I just don't know if they're going to have a year like they had last year.
Well, I don't think they will. No,
which would be kind of in that 3 area.
I don't. If
Noah Fafita?
No, the coach, Jed Fish, and he stayed, then there would be no questioning them.
I mean,
in the top 3
but
or
you
4.
lost. You lost a big time defensive coach to Texas, and you lost some guys sprinkling here at a graduation to the transfer portal. So
some to Washington.
But then guys like Michael Wiley, who I think were like productive in a really unique, good way for you at running back. The big loss for Arizona that knocks them more than any for me is like you could definitely point deep, but Jacob Cowing at wide receiver, like we talk about Teterow and McMillan all the time, but Jacob Cowing had more than his fair share of a lot of those yards and touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And even with Noah Fafita, like he was really, really good. But he wasn't the only quarterback last year. You know, like Jaden DeLore was involved there for a little while. So so I think there's still some proving to do. But I definitely think Cowing leaving, they don't just automatically replace him necessarily. But yeah, shout out to Coos Corner and everybody else. But I do think we could poll the audience and have 100 different versions of this, especially going from 3 to 16.
Well, we do. It's called the chat room. It's the chat room. Cous's Corner, or what'd you call his name? I call him Cous's Corner. I don't Cous's Corner or whatever.
Oh, that's like yeah.
All right, and Kim
Straighten us
Coulter.
out.
Kim Coulter. God, I love the man, but he is such an anti-Donovan Smith, who was an interception waiting to happen, turnover waiting to happen when he was at Texas Tech.
If they had Dana Holgorsen back, I'd probably have them at 15 or 16. We'll see tomorrow, but I don't love Donovan Smith as an overall player because of the things you just mentioned, but I am very intrigued by what Willie Fritz can do with Donovan Smith, and yet, you know, you've lost some firepower at wide receiver for starters. But yeah, Donovan Smith, he can be a very frustrating player. Ask Houston, ask Texas Tech.
Yeah.
So does that improve this year? If so, then that would be their guide out of the basement here. But I don't think many are banking on that, and that's why you see a lot of Houston in like that bottom rung there.
Yeah, and Cuz is saying, I think something nobody is talking about, which we did earlier in the show, is Andy Kolenicki leaving KU. I think he had an impact. We absolutely discussed that earlier in the show, but thanks for bringing that up. Let's see.